How many times have you thought about learning a new language? Maybe you want to learn French. Maybe you want to learn English. Maybe you want to learn Spanish. A few people might run out there and say, okay, I'm going to go and learn Mandarin. Okay, I actually got some friends who speak Mandarin as a second language, and they're great at it. What about learning the five love languages and becoming so fluid in it that you can say, I know English and I know the five love languages. So now I know six languages, right? Become a love language linguist and become such an expert at it that your IQ is secondary to your EQ. And you can really engage other humans on a nonverbal level. Stick with me now. This is so dope that as a caregiver, when you're dealing with your LO, you don't even need words because they can feel you. You know what I mean? Yeah, we all heard about the book, The Five Love Languages, but do we keep up with what your love language is and other people's love language? All right. Well, today's guest, he turned that book inside out, came up with a whole new way to attack that thing, and he even made it a game. Come on. Come on, listen with me. This is about to be so damn fun.
Parenting Up, Caregiving Adventures with comedian Jay Smiles is the intense journey of unexpectedly being fully responsible for my mama. For over a decade, I've been chipping away at the unknown, advocating for her, and pushing Alzheimer's awareness on anyone and anything with a heartbeat. Spoiler alert, I started comedy because this shit is so heavy, so be ready for the jokes. Caregiver newbies, OGs, and village members just willing to prop up a caregiver, you are in the right place.
Hi, this is Zeddy. I hope you enjoy my daughter's podcast. Is that okay?
Becoming a love language linguist as a caregiver. A conversation with Paul.
Our Parenting Up community is growing so fast. I can't put out an episode as fast as we're growing. So text podcast to 404-737-1449 for updates, exclusives, and suggestions on topics. While you're at it, share an episode with a caregiver you love. Review on Apple Podcasts and follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Please, it really helps. Today's sponsor is the Outside Been Open Tour. DC, Chicago, New York, Houston, Atlanta. You better get your tickets.
Parenting Up family, you know we keep it interesting here. We're all about how do we not jump off of a cliff while caring for our LOs? What are the ways that we can keep ourselves energized and motivated and fortified? Well, I found somebody today that is going to really shake up the norm. Yep. A love language linguist. Now, this is not about trying to figure out how you and your LO can run off and get married. Now, that's up to you. I'm not getting in that, though. But listen, don't start no OnlyFans page talking about Jay Smiles told you that you were supposed to go fall in love with your mama. That is something for Bravo channel, okay? But I'm here with Paul, and he is about to turn this whole topic inside out. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Jay. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Listen. Many of us have heard about the Five Love Languages book, but you heard about that thing. You internalized it. You dog-eared the pages, you read it a bunch of times, and you came up with a whole new way to look at it. Well, you know what? Let me back up a little bit. Tell us first about the book for people who may not know about it. I guess I don't want to be assuming that.
So Dr. Gary Chapman was a reverend. He actually wrote the book, The Five Love Languages, in the early 90s and published it in 1992. So it's been a while since that has happened, but He sold worldwide more than 17 million copies of that book. And what the theory of the book is that everyone has their own particular primary or secondary love language, that when they receive that, they feel loved. What I'm proposing, though, is that if we learn all the 5 love languages, actually internalize all of them, our love language, our primary love language, might change. Because I think that what has happened, Jay, is that generationally, we love the way our parents loved, and maybe we love the way our grandparents loved, because it was passed on from generation to generation. For me, that wasn't the case. I was abused, probably like my father was abused, like his father may have been abused, and it was more abuse that was passed down rather than love. I do remember some loving events in my childhood. I remember playing games. And so as I read through the 5 love languages, I didn't get it, just because of where I came from. I really didn't get it. I was thinking in my head, Dr. Chapman, you mean if I guess what Jay's love language is and I cater to that, we're going to be buddies? I'm a bad guesser, Dr. Chapman. It's not going to work. So it didn't really work for me, just because I'm a bad guesser. Well, the second thing Dr. Chapman has in his book is that, well, if I take this survey, I can find out what my love language is, what I like to get, what I like to receive. What do I do with that, Dr. Chapman? Advertise? Hello, Jay. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? That is so awkward and ridiculous that nobody's going to respond to that. That didn't work for me either. So I thought, well, what if I could make this a game? So I contacted Dr. Chapman and sent him an email. He sent an email back. I asked him if he was licensing those little icons, those little pictures that they had for the different love languages. His attorney wrote back and said, no, we're not doing that. I was frankly relieved, because they were old. I mean, dated way back to 1992, kind of ugly. Did not like them anyway. I was going to make my own. I went to a copyright attorney, an intellectual property attorney here in my neighborhood, and found out that theory is not copyrightable. So the love language theory is not copyrightable, but application is. And with that, I thought, well, I can make my own icons and I can make it a game, because they don't have that application. So that's what I did. So I made it a game, and I put the icons on a die. Right now I'm holding the die, and it's got a hand holding an hourglass. So that signifies the love language of time. I've got a gentleman holding a platter. That signifies service. 2 hands together forming a heart, and there's a conversation fly out like you'd see in a cartoon, but it looks like the heart is talking. Those are the words. Got 2 hands touching one another. That's touch. And then the last love language is a hand holding a gift. Those are the gifts. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube. The last side is surprise me. It's a hand holding a question mark. There's just 2 instructions. You roll the die every day. That's the love language you send out or give away all day that day. All day. So it's not just to your LO, it's to everyone that you come in contact with. If you're with that LO all day long, then it's just your LO. But what you're doing is you're sending out the words, or you're sending out service, or you're sending out time. You're sending all these out all day long. It's not like I did the dishes, woohoo, I'm done. And it's not an event anymore. But with this type of attitude of doing it to everyone, not just your LOs, but to everyone, with this, you actually develop the characteristic of sending love out all the time. And what you're watching for is when they light up. When they light up, you've hit their primary or their secondary love language, as Dr. Chapman had indicated. You've hit it, you just take a mental note, that's what they like. And then you just wash, rinse, repeat. Do that over and over again. And I think as far as a caregiver goes, that as we're watching for people to light up, we're trying to make their day a better day. They're already having a bad day. They already started the day with a bad day, most likely. We're trying to make their day a better day. And if we can keep that thought in our mind that we're trying to make their day better, regardless, forget about you. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. If you can do that, then your day is going to be really happy because you're going to hit on it. You're going to hit on what's going to help them be happier. And by doing that, I think that the care that you give to them is it's going to be rewarded. It's almost like payment on that day when you've made them have a happy day. It's really kind of payment for the services that you're offering.
Whoa. You have blown me away. Look, Parenting Up Family, I do discovery calls with anyone that may be a guest. Paul knows this. So we chatted about this. I had some idea of what he was going to say. That's how protective I am of the community. I need to make sure that what's coming will have a value and benefit for family caregivers of adults with some diminishing capacity. Who knew that you could do all of this? I part of what I love about what Paul has done is just the way Paul attacked an existing world-renowned, best-selling, a gazillion times over book. And he, shout out to Missy Elliott, he flipped it and reversed it and repeated it. He talked to a intellectual property attorney to make sure he was covered in what he was doing, so there would be nothing illegal about it. And that in and of itself is such the spirit of what caregivers do. There's something happening and we're trying to improve it and make it better. So we're constantly pivoting. And so you got into this book, you saw or you felt that there's something there, but it's just not quite working for me. Everyone else is exclaiming all the world over that this book is great, but it wasn't quite great for you, or at least it wasn't sinking in. And you made it work for you. And the spirit of that is something that I'm hoping that is also embedded for the Parenting Up family. That when something is not quite working for you, that you figure out a way to make it work. That to me is also a major silver lining in your journey of creating your game out of this book that had already been, somewhat knighted as, hey, this is a great way to increase your interpersonal, intrapersonal, whatever, your EQ, your emotional quotient, and all of these things. So for people who may not have been aware, the 5 love languages are touch and acts of service. If I missed something, Paul, just help me at the end. Touch, acts of service, time. What's that? Gifts. And what's that? Words. Yes. Thank you. Those are the 5. And that is supposed to be kind of, and we're not here to argue whether or not they're more than 5. Okay. We're just going ahead and we're acknowledging that we're saying that humans in large can say those 5, it resonates with us. And what I do know is this, as a comedian and just as a human, some of us, how many of us know that person that is always like 30 minutes late to everything? They miss their plane, they're late for church, they're late for the doctor's appointment, and people are offended. But the flip side of it is when you're 30 minutes late for them, they don't care. Because actually time doesn't matter to them. And that is somewhat the purpose of this too, in the book and in Paul's game, is you're acknowledging and you're becoming aware of what matters to other people. Some people need 12 hours of sleep. Other people need 4. Some people prefer to have lots of money. Other people prefer to have lots of food. I mean, I'm using these simple examples just to share how really understanding what drives you and what drives other people can make your life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
It's also embedded within it, Paul, is the recognition that, wow, just like we each have a very different fingerprint,
Mm-hmm.
what makes Jay Smiles tick is not what makes Paul tick. So if I keep giving Paul gifts to say I'm sorry or to say, hey, I like you a lot, or I think you're a great guy, and Paul is not lighting up or calling me back or wanting to go on vacation with me, and I'm wondering, like, damn, this guy, he has up a big wall. Maybe gifts just don't, that's just not his thing. Right. And one thing I also want to dig back into is, what do you think it is that even made you want to dig more into this book? You talked about there was abuse that had been passed down in your family. And I think that was a major awareness on your part, just to recognize what had been passed down. How many of us don't even recognize what had been passed down, whatever it is, whether it was hugs or the apple pie recipe or being really fast on a football field or an ass whipping, whatever, but recognizing, hey, this is the thing we do. So what made you, I'm sure you've read more than one book and you didn't make a game out of any of the other ones.
No, I did not. Yeah, exactly. So that's a very good question, Jay, and I appreciate that. Some of the things that you said really kind of made me smile, and it just follows who you are. You're just a person that makes people smile. And one thing, when you start talking about people that were late for this and late for that, and chronically late, the biggest pronouncement of that was my father-in-law. He was absolutely late for his funeral. Now, how does that happen? How do you get late for your own funeral? And what happened is that the mortician that was driving him around got lost, got lost, and just could not even make, the body wasn't there. So we had to start the funeral basically without him, and it was just hilarious. So yeah, but he was.
Just wait 1 second, Paul. I have to have a real belly chuckle. I've heard comedians make a joke or family members say, that person, that guy, that chick, you so late, dude. I bet you'll be late to your own funeral, but I'll bump, and people laugh. But and they're telling that to a person that's alive. And you're telling me
it actually happened. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was hilarious because he was that kind of guy. He was a comedian, and he was late, and he was on his own time schedule. And I think that you can direct things from the other side of the veil. You can direct it a whole lot better than you could on this side of the veil. It seems like you have more power, more control, and he was relishing in that, I'm sure. Just been dead a couple of days, and he was on it, and made the driver lose his way or something, just on purpose. But he was like 30, 45 minutes late. It was quite some time. We were waiting there, wondering if he's going to show up.
Oh, I got to decide what I want to do when I die. That's like quintessential Jay Smiles. Thanks. I'm gonna make a note of that. Okay, continue.
So what it is that helped me, there was an event in my life that I was, I had a lot of residual anger left over from this childhood of abuse that I went through. And what I recognized, Jay, is that I had a brother that had it, and I had a father that had it, and then I had it myself. And what we'd do is we'd be annoyed, and then we'd flash. You'd never know when I got to the top of the pile to be able to flash. You didn't know when that was going to happen. It could happen in public. It could happen at home. It could happen anywhere. And it would just be one of those flashes. And it was just really kind of a knee-jerk reaction, not something that we really had a lot of control over until we realized what was happening. And so I realized that I was beginning to be annoyed I'm never annoyed with myself. I don't think anybody's annoyed with themselves. Most of the time, they're not. So I was always other people. When I realized that I was being annoyed of what other people were doing, why'd you do that? What's wrong with that? And it just had that critical path that I was going down. I realized that I don't have any control over their choices. It's out of my lane. And I decided I got to stay in my lane. And so what I can do is send love out, and I can react when it comes back my way. I don't have any right to judge that person. If anybody's going to be the judge, it's going to be Jesus. It's going to be their judge. I'm not their judge. And so for me to be critical or annoyed about another person really was something that I had to stop that behavior. And I kept reminding myself, I don't want to be angry. But it's kind of a double negative, Jay. And when I realized that, double negatives only happen in math when you're multiplying two negative numbers. That makes a positive. Doesn't happen in relationships. Absolutely doesn't happen in relationships. So when I realized that, I stopped being annoyed at what they're doing and started looking at what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? And I was so busy doing that, I completely forgot to be annoyed. Forgot to be looking at what other people are doing and being bothered by what other people are doing. Wasn't happening anymore. So it was a whole paradigm shift, 180 degrees, from looking at what's wrong with people to actually now looking at what's right with them, what can I love about them, and focusing on that. And I think that as it applies to caregiving, that we can't really control, and maybe they can't either, what they're choosing to do. But we can control what we choose to do. And we're choosing, hopefully, to send out love. The very fact that we are there caring for our loved ones is an act of love. We're there. We're spending the time. We're taking the time. We're expending time. Time is one of those love languages. And I want to get back to one other thing that you said, that about other love languages. You said that there are other love languages other than the 5, and there really are. But I want to explain it this way. I realized that as I'm stacking these annoyances, and getting to the flash, that there is kind of a parallel on the other side with love. That as you stack acts of kindness, acts of kindness, acts of kindness, acts of kindness on top of one another, and these 5 love languages, that's what I'm talking about. If you'll stack those, then you get to that higher level. It's like a stair step. You get to that higher level of compassion, of that sympathy, of that empathy, of that forgiveness. Those are higher laws. Even intimacy, it takes a while to get to that point that you just feel that you totally want to give yourself to that person. It'll take those kind acts to lead up to that. And so those higher laws will come, and that you could call them the laws of love, or you could call them the languages of love. But I believe that it's the basic language that gets us there. That stacking will get us to that higher law.
I'm here for it. I'm here to walk those steps and to keep building and building upon it. Ooh, this is refreshing. And you made a game of it. Who doesn't like, first of all, who doesn't like rolling the die? It doesn't even matter what's on it, right? Whether we were playing jacks or, okay, I will admit that I like playing craps in a proper casino. I learned it from my uncle. Well, he's now my uncle, but he's my mom's baby sister. They were dating in college, and he taught me how to play up against my grandmother's the back door in her house. That's how he taught me to play. I don't know if I was 10 years old, but I like the idea that I could take some die, and based on the number that came up, I could make some money. Like this, I was like, well, why are we going to school? We should just be doing this everywhere, 2 or 3 hours a day, and then go outside and play and come back and do this some more. This seems great. So, but to make a game to adding a little bit of fun to it,
It's, to me, it's just like winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everybody wins. And that's the spoiler alert that this is a game that everybody wins. That you're going to win by giving it away, they're going to win by receiving it, and then you're going to win by watching it when it comes your way. It's just win all the way around.
As a full-time caregiver, one thing that has never changed, I feel good loving on my mother. I feel good loving on anyone in need.
Mm-hmm.
I have started to acknowledge to even to others that I'm a caregiver. And apparently, Paul, I've been a caregiver all my life, and I just didn't know it. I didn't call myself that of sorts until my mother's diagnosis. But definitely all of my adult life, I've been the person where when family or friends or people close to me, because it takes a lot of energy to be a caregiver, but when they hit a period of calamity, I was the one that they called. And I showed up. I shut my whole life down, used up all of my time off of work. And I mean, for people, I didn't have to be dating them. Guys, friends that they might not have been in my family, but just really close. I just showed up and they were like, what? I remember one girlfriend, her mom died. I hadn't talked to her in 2 years. I got a call from someone to say, so-and-so's mama died. I was in an airport on my way home. I got a call. They said her mom died. And I rerouted. I was at a layover. I rerouted. I didn't even have my bags. My bags went to my house. I rerouted and went and spent a week there because that's how close I was to her. And I showed up and she was like, how did you even know? And I just started hugging her. Like, that's just who I am. I don't know why I am there. It's very freaking exhausting, but it's just, like this, it's in there. So, but about your commitment to rectifying your own discomfort and pain, I want to give you tremendous credit for that, Paul.
Thank you.
Because what you shared that I want to underscore, bold, highlight, italics, and put it in purple with glitter. And purple is Alzheimer's color. So that's why I did that. And make it shiny is there were patterns and then there were emotions or feelings or a fallout that you were experiencing that you did not appreciate. Mm-hmm. And you decided to change it, to try to figure something out. Now, everyone listening, we may not have Paul's process, but this is what we can all take away. Do something to change the things within that you are not crazy about within yourself, right? Like there's something going on. You're like, man, this just keeps coming up. I don't really like how this is going. It can't always be somebody else. How am I ending up in this space where I'm red hot on fire or my stomach is hurting or I'm waking up with neck pain and back pain? If you waking up with neck pain and back pain, something happened, you know? So shout out to Paul for doing that. And take us through one or two examples of what people have shared with you or what you've experienced in how you actually use the game, right? So you mentioned how you just do it daily or how it's a game or an exercise. You pretty much, what I think is great, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like an action-oriented, get better, self-help, you don't have to write it down journal. And I can't always write it down, but if I pick this die up and roll it, that is my daily action to activate. Okay, Jay Smiles, go do this thing.
Absolutely, Jay, and that's really a good thing. There's a mayor in a neighboring town that actually when she was running for election, she picked up a die, started rolling it, started just sending the love out. And I'm sure it affected her election as well as it's affected her as she's in office. When she rolls it every day, she rolls it with her husband. And it just is, she said it's kind of an intentional thing that I'm intending to love all day long. You can imagine a political office person that they're going to get barraged with a lot of questions that are really hard questions, and she's responding with love because she's choosing to do that all day long. And it's really helped her in her campaign, helped her keep a level head in the office, and it's just really worked well with her that way. As far as for families, there was a family of 5 children that decided they're going to try to roll the die as a family. Well, each one of the family members would roll the die for themselves. So it wasn't that the whole family was doing the same love language all that day, but every member. So one day it was Jonathan's turn to roll the die. He's 4 years old, the very youngest. He's a boy and had older brothers. He rolled one day he rolled physical touch. He jumps up and down, his fist pumping. He said, "Yes, physical touch, physical touch." And immediately goes beats up on his brothers. And the mother's trying to suppress all the laughter, just like you're laughing there, Jay, trying to suppress all this laughter and say, "No, son, that's not really appropriate physical touch." But he probably learned it from his older brothers. That's what his brothers were doing, and that's how we thought love was administered physically. And so that's what he did. But for the mother, it actually became a wonderful teaching moment to teach Jonathan, this is what the way we do physical touch. It's the high five, the fist bump. We do fancy handshakes. We do a pat on the back above the waist. And just those times, that's how we express physical touch, or the hug. We just do it in that way. And while the mother's teaching Jonathan, the siblings are also listening. So they're getting also the idea of how to appropriately send love out there. And so it's just, those are a couple of examples of how people are using this in their life and how it's really blessing their life, helping them rise above what the violence or the rage that's going on right now. And we all really need to do that. We just need to be a little kinder every single day.
You just keep knocking it out the park, Paul. You keep knocking. Well, there's not going to be any balls left. You're not even giving the ball boys and the ball girls time to go back out to the parking lot, get all the balls back, bring them back inside so they can hit it outside. Well, you can hit them again. We don't have enough baseballs for this. This has been such a rewarding conversation. And I was so excited and energized to bring it to the community because it's a book that many of us have either read or in some way heard about the 5 love languages, and people talk pretty comfortably about, oh, my love language is gifts or it's time. And now to have an executable game or task, and then to say as a caregiver, I can exercise. This is how I'm going to engage my LO. It doesn't really matter what your LO gives you back. If I'm giving this to my LO and I can watch and see if they light up, they don't have to, what I took from how you were sharing, we don't have to worry about if our LO took the test or read the book. If they light up in how we are engaging them by the sparkle of their eye or they smile brighter, then we can take that as a, aha, yes, that particular way, whether it was the touch or the words, or maybe we gave them a card, it was colorful. Then we say, oh, okay, yeah. Mom or dad or sister or husband kind of like that. Mm-hmm. And then also, if we're using that when we're out and about in the world, we're using our whatever love language for that particular moment at work or in the grocery store, it's allowing us to focus on something positive that day rather than some of the responsibilities and heaviness of being a caregiver. And who knows what will come back in return. That's not for us to decide right now in this podcast, but what we have, I've heard enough in my life. You get back what you give, just in the world generally. I might not get back exactly what I give from my mom, but I'm going to get back what I give from the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I choose to give love. It's a choice. That's what I choose. Well, tell everyone, Paul, let us know where we can purchase the game, what else you have going on, how we can follow you, get in touch with you, all the good things.
So thank you, Jay. They can purchase everything. It's really, the cost is less, quite a bit less than just one session of therapy. And this is something that's really going to help you throughout your rest of your life. I have it on special right now for $29.99. It's a bundle package that you get the cube, you get the book, and you get the journal. And this, I have the same feeling about journals, Jay, that you do, that when I look at a blank page, my mind goes blank. This isn't a blank page. This is where you can record what you rolled, what opportunities you saw to love in that way, and what you did about those opportunities. It becomes a love journal, something that you can pass on to your other loved ones, that, or that when you get to the point that you are not able to talk about it, then they can read those books about what was it that my mother loved in her day. Instead, I would have loved to have a journal like this from my mother or my grandmother. Instead, Jay, I got a journal about the weather. The weather 60 years ago. The weather. Who cares about that? I could have read an almanac about the weather, but who reads the almanac? I mean, ridiculous. I know that the weather was important to farmers, but anyway. That roleoflove.com, ROLE of love.com is where you can find all that. And like I said, it's on special right now from now till Christmas.
We're going to roll on, bump
I like it.
into the world and spread some love. Thank you so much, Paul. This has been an absolute blast. You're welcome to come back anytime, share more stories about your journey as a love language linguist. What I so think is, the dopest crap ever. I'm saying crap because it's so the dopest shit ever. I'm a comedian, whatever. The dopest shit ever to me, Paul, is when you shared that, yeah, there's French, there's English, there's Spanish. I have a niece that she used to say, I want to go to Japan so I can learn Japanish. There are all these languages, but can you be a love language linguist? Right? Because you can speak those languages too. Everyone's so busy trying to speak word languages. What about speaking these emotional languages? And I was like, oh my goodness. Oh, that was my mind exploding all over my brain inside the skull.
And that's a worldwide language too, Jay. It will be something that everyone around the world will understand too.
All right. You heard it first here. Well, I heard it first here. I'm sure you've told many others. But anyway, we appreciate it so much. We're going to use it. You're welcome to come back anytime. You have a good one.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.
The snuggle ups. Number one, I love it when a negative gets stripped of its, essence, of the ugliness, of the darkness, of its power, and turned into something glorious, magnificent, filled with light. The way Paul decided, he made the choice. Now, I know that there are lots of pieces and steps that Paul did not share with us around how come he ended up needing the Love Languages book. And how many other things did not work for him along the way. But the abuse of his childhood that led to the anger within him and his brothers and all this crap made him say, I don't really, and then I'm gonna do something about it. That's that fire. That's that fire. Yeah. Number 2, language is more than words, y'all. We hear it all the time. Ooh, I don't remember the statistic, but it's something like when you're communicating with people, body language or presentation or facial expression or something. Your actions mean more than your words. All these kind of things, blah, 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 all the things have constantly been told to us. That's what people are watching, not just your words, J. Smiles. And now we have this deeper way to approach the 5 Love Languages book. And we can think about being a love language linguist. So not only know maybe what your language is, your love language is, and your spouse, or your best friend, but to become proficient in all 5 love languages. That is so dope. Like to become so emotionally nimble. What the, yo, as a caregiver, how dope is that? I mean, we could then just kind of pivot a lot more seamlessly and stress and crap from work. At least that's how I see it. Right? I'd have just fall our pile back. I pledged. That's number 3. You're a caregiver. You are an unpaid family caregiver. All right? So choose your internal well-being. If this isn't the route for you, then what is? It's cool if this ain't your thing. No problem. But I am going to challenge you to take an action for what is. Because what's not the answer is a continuous negative ball of fire in your gut every day or every other day when that certain person calls or when your LO decides to bite the orange with the whole rind on it. You know what I'm saying. Today's sponsor is the Outside Been Open Tour. Get your tickets at jsmilescomedy.com. DC, New York City, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta. Get your tickets. Come on.
We made it. Thank you for listening. Please share with someone you love. Subscribe for continuous caregiving tips, tricks, trends, and truth. And pretty please, with brain health sweetener on top. Review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on social media too. I'm a comedian. Alzheimer's is heavy, but we ain't gotta be.